So I heard that many of my favorite musicians practice for 4 hours a day. So naturally, I also wanted to try practicing 4 hours a day, and I completely failed with it. But I did learn a bunch of things in my own experience, and I wanted to share them with you. This is going to be the video that I needed when I decided to practice 4 hours a day. I'm going to be talking about the pros, the cons, the challenges involved, and some lessons that I learned with the hope that you can actually succeed where I failed. This is only my own experience. Like, nothing I say here is absolute. I do implore you to do your own experimentation or further research, because you might discover a completely different set of pros and cons. Yeah, this is my own experience, so take it with a grain of salt. Let's start with the pros. Number 1, you become very solid at your instrument. I can't promise that you're going to become an incredible player, because that takes a lifetime, but what you are going to become is very solid. You're going to become a very reliable session player and member of any band, which is a very valuable thing. You will develop your dexterity and speed. You will always be in an optimal state for performance. You will be speaking the language of music very fluently, because you will be engaged in this language and developing your skills for 4 hours a day. It's kind of like the movie Limitless. You will be musically limitless. Your mind will just be switched on to music. Of course, this is the biggest pro, which is why I've started the video with this pro. Yeah, you're going to become a very solid player. Number 2, you can learn so much more in a shorter period of time. You can 10x the amount of tunes that you normally learn. You can 10x the language that you normally learn. You can become 10 times more refined in your playing. And yeah, it all depends upon how you focus the 4 hours of your practice, which is the most important thing, and I'll get into that later. In your music journey, if you ever find that you need to smash through some kind of big obstacle, like you might need to learn a big repertoire, or you might need to tackle a really challenging piece of music, a 4-hour practice schedule is something that you can employ to smash through those obstacles and achieve those goals in a much shorter amount of time. And once you have experience trying this 4-hour practice schedule for like a week or a month, you have that in your toolkit, and you can always bring it up. You can be like, okay, I'm gonna practice for 4 hours every day for the next week, for the next month, and I'm gonna smash through these obstacles. And that's a really valuable thing to have. Number 3, you become very good at practicing. Practicing itself is a skill and an art. When you are practicing for 4 hours every day, you're going to become, of course, very good at your instrument, but even more importantly, you're going to become very good at practicing. And if you are good at practicing, you're going to make so much more progress from your practice, because you will know how to direct your practice and how to direct the focus that you have in your practice. So when you're practicing 4 hours a day, you actually become really attuned to the different kinds of exercises and methods that really work for you and what you're trying to achieve on your instrument. Later on, when you go back to like a 2-hour practice schedule, or like a 1 hour, or even 30 minutes, it doesn't really matter how long you practice. What really matters is how focused your practice is. You will know exactly how to spend 30 minutes. Number 4, when you are practicing for 4 hours a day, you activate the flow state a lot more in your day. Flow state brings us joy and happiness, and it actually removes decision fatigue. You won't have any thoughts like, what am I going to do between this and that? What am I going to do now? You won't have those thoughts. You will know exactly what you're going to do. You're just going to practice, and that can actually bring you much peace. It's kind of like the idea of essentialism. It simplifies your life, and you just wake up, you get on with your things, and you focus on your practice. It can make you feel more at peace, and you also kind of activate this meta flow state over the days where you're building momentum, you're feeling like you're making a lot of progress, you will feel very productive, and it's going to be great, and you'll be in the flow state often, and that's always a good thing. Number 5, you can correct any imperfections in your playing and finally target the weak areas in your playing and improve on them. Number 6, you will be in a hyper-focused state. What makes you unique as a musician? Where do you want to go as a musician? What are you trying to achieve? What is your vision? You can start to answer these questions when you are focusing on developing your music and your craft for 4 hours every day, because you're just going to be so zoned in, right? Where are you heading with all of this? Why are you practicing 4 hours a day, and why do you want to practice 4 hours a day? That is an exciting question to answer. I know for me, that excites me every day. I can't wait to find out where I'm going on my music journey. Like, this is fun, man. It's exciting. Anyway, those are 6 pretty awesome pros, but they might be somewhat balanced with the cons. So let's get on with the cons. Number 1, practicing is done alone in your room, and when you're doing it for 4 hours a day, yeah, it can be quite antisocial. Most likely you work a full-time job, or maybe you're a student, so you only have like 4 hours to spare in your day, which will all be going into your instrument now. You might actually have to schedule in your social time, but then again, there are no like rigid rules or anything to this. Like, just live your life however you want. Number 2, and this is quite a serious one, it can potentially lead to injury or burnout, or both. If you have bad form or technique, 4 hours of practice can actually be a detriment to you and your long-term progress as a musician. You need to make sure that you do have good form and good technique, and that you don't have bad habits in your playing, because practicing 4 hours a day is just going to hammer those bad habits in further, and that could actually damage you further down the road. So you need to be aware that this is a possibility. Just be careful. Don't go too hard. Make sure you're always warming up before you do anything intense. As for burnout, practicing 4 hours a day, it can make you very susceptible to burnout, so just be aware of that. Number 3, an intense focus on your practice means that you might end up neglecting the other important areas of music, like songwriting, producing, playing gigs, content creation, etc. The way I see music is that it's kind of like a solar system, right? Practicing your instrument is just one planet among many other planets. If you are focusing all of your time and energy and resources into practicing, you might have less resources to cultivate the other planets. So just be aware that you have limited resources, and make sure that practicing is what you want to focus your time and energy and focus into at this stage in your music journey. It probably is the case that you want to focus on practice, because otherwise you wouldn't be watching a video about practicing 4 hours a day. But just be aware that you might end up neglecting the other areas of music, which are equally important. Number 4, music can become quite mechanical, stale, and uncreative. It can be quite repetitive, boring, mundane work. You've got to have spice. You've got to make your practicing fun and interesting, but even still, it can be quite repetitive, especially if you're doing it 4 hours a day. So if you are in music for the exciting things, for the fun of it, for the expression, the creativity, then practicing 4 hours a day might not be for you, because it might actually drain the joy out of it. Right? If the emotion, the human spirit is not in the music, what's the point? You don't want to compromise on that human spirit, on that good thing that I can't describe in the music. You know what I'm talking about, that thing in the music. You want to maintain that thing. You want to cultivate that thing. That thing is the most important thing. That heart connection, that emotional expression with music, that groove, that soul, that funk. Make sure to preserve that at all costs. If that is being drained from practicing 4 hours a day, then it's probably not worth it, because you might be an incredible player, but is it grooving? Is it vibing? I don't know. You have to answer that for yourself. Okay, so those are all the pros and cons that I discovered. There's probably so many more, but you might have to discover them for yourself. Now, let's get on with some of the challenges involved with practicing 4 hours a day. Number 1, it's a lot of time. It might seem like it could be quite approachable, but it actually is a lot of time. And finding that time and fitting it into your daily schedule without compromising your sleep, your good habits, your obligations, and your commitments, this is probably the biggest challenge involved. Number 2, practicing can disturb your neighbors or flatmates. Most likely, your instrument makes some kind of noise, otherwise it wouldn't be a musical instrument. So just be respectful. Like, don't be practicing the drums or the trumpet at like 4 a.m. because that's the only time that you can practice. I practice the keyboard using MIDI with headphones, but even still, this sound here, let's see if the microphone picks it up. I don't know if you can hear that, but that sound, like even without the piano playing, like my flatmates can hear it. And I've had problems in the past with my flatmates being annoyed with that sound. 4 hours is a lot of time to be making noise, so make sure that the people around you are cool with it and don't annoy them. That would suck. You want to have a happy, harmonious relationship with the people around you. Number 3, maintaining focus for 4 hours at a time can be almost impossible. So don't just sit there for 4 hours at a time. How long can you stay focused on one task at a time? Is it 30 minutes? Is it 1 hour? Discern that and break the 4 hours into time chunks where you are most focused on your practice, because there's no point in practicing when you're not focused. Number 4, showing up consistently, especially at the start when you're not really getting any results, can be quite a challenge. Just stay consistent, have faith in the practice program, have faith in your vision as a musician. You will see big results in your playing if you are showing up. Number 5, there can be physical challenges involved as well. Musicians are athletes, don't forget. We just use our forearms, our wrists, our hands, and our fingers. We need to make sure that we're always warming up before we do any rigorous practice. Find some good warm-up exercises and don't skip out on them. This is really important. We need to make sure that we're taking good care of our physicality, good care of our posture. We should always have good posture. Try stretching beforehand. Playing an instrument is a very physical thing. We need to make sure that we have a good body connection with our instrument. Music is infinite. It's such a long journey, and we want to experience that journey for the rest of our lives. So maintain good physical health. You've made it this far into the video, which means that you are probably very keen to try out this 4-hour practice schedule, or at least you want to improve in your practice. Here are some things that I've learned in regards to effective music practice. Number 1, have a program and stick to it. There's no point in practicing for 4 hours a day and wasting that 4 hours aimlessly doing this exercise and that exercise. You need to make sure that your practice is focused. Why do you want to practice 4 hours a day? What are you trying to achieve in your practice? Break your 4 hours into those time chunks that I mentioned earlier, where you clearly outline what you will be working on in that time to achieve the goal that you're working towards. When you have your practice plan laid out, write it down or type it up and print it out. Always keep it at your practice stand. This is the true key to your improvement. If you want a practice plan, you can probably find them online. Just search 4-hour practice plan. I will share 2 that I found in the description below. The one that I used, which is for jazz piano, and I think I also found another one for guitar from Samurai Guitarist. Number 2, don't just jump straight into 4 hours of practice. You want to build up to it by adding another time chunk every few days or maybe every week. You want to build up to it. You want to build that stamina, add in those time chunks until you reach your desired 4 hours of practice time. Number 3, be flexible. Don't be too rigid with any of this. Like, I'm just some random guy on the internet, so don't take any word I say here as like some serious thing that you have to follow or anything. Like, be flexible. Like, if there's some event you want to go to and you're gonna miss like 2 hours of your practice one day, then that's fine. I mean, I'm not gonna tell you how to live your life, so yeah, you figure it out for yourself. Number 4, don't be too harsh on yourself. Something that I discovered when I was practicing 4 hours a day was something that my friend called the Dunning-Kruger effect. So the way that I understand the Dunning-Kruger effect is that the music journey, it's like on plateaus and then rises, and then plateaus and then rises, and it's like that for infinity. There's no ceiling on this thing. It's an infinite journey, and there's musicians all the way up. When you're practicing a lot, you're progressing along that plateau and it feels like you're not making progress, and then suddenly you go on this rise and you're just figuring it out. You're just so much better all of a sudden. But then you go onto the new plateau and suddenly it's stretched out before you like some big hike. There's a mountain in the distance. The musicians in this realm are very skilled and you feel like a noob. You just kind of feel like you suck all of a sudden. If this is happening to you, don't get despondent. Try not to compare yourself with others. I know that is very hard at some times, but stay true to yourself. Focus on your own journey. Focus on your own improvement, and you will get better with time, and your music journey is going to be awesome. That's pretty much all I have for you in this video. I really hope that you got some value from this. I hope that you become the musician that you always wanted to become. I know I want to become the musician I always dream of becoming. I want to share my journey here on this channel with music and shenanigans and genuine content like this as well. I want to provide value. I want to share my own experience, my own successes, and my own failures with my fellow musicians because I feel like there's value there. I hope that someone out there is going to get value from this. And that's about it. Don't forget to vibe and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.